Do you ever find yourself extremely irritated or troubled by someone or something within the external world of observation? It could be a certain person, the way they behave, the way a group of people behave, a certain location that you don't particularly like, a certain idea, concept, etc. Carl Jung talked about something very interesting. It said something very interesting with regards to irritation and the psychology of it. He said that everything that irritates us about others leads us to an understanding of ourselves. So when we enter into a state like this, it tells us more about our own unconscious problems we sometimes cannot see, that we are sometimes very blind towards, that we are instead projecting psychologically our internal chaos when we are irritated or through irritation onto something that is external, that is outside of ourselves. If you ever catch yourself doing this, you might realize that you are doing it out of a desire to be irresponsible of your own personal responsibilities sometimes. That you want to use or find something external to blame, to scapegoat for your own unhappiness or misfortune. Now, Carl Jung talked about this in a very specific way. He called this shadow projection. When we take our own unwanted emotions, feelings, or impulses and cast them onto an external victim within the world that we see, to avoid accountability and responsibility, but to also develop a false sense of grandiosity and pride, to bypass our own internal feelings of shame, you could say. This type of character that does this, is well represented even in Dostoevsky's novel, The Underground Man. The Underground Man is someone who doesn't live above ground, metaphorically speaking. He's someone who's always projecting these ideas and these problems onto people and has a lot of resentment fundamentally because he always does this. We can see this behavior manifest the most culturally through things like misogyny, racism, ethnophobia, or any other form of cognitively biased behavior or attitude of blame that arises hatred and fear towards someone or something that is not themselves. So this is what you could call the collective shadow projection, where there are big ideas, big ideologies that are associated to certain things that we then put loads of external blame onto, instead of each individual who puts blame onto a certain group of people taking accountability and responsibility for their specific decisions, beliefs, and attitudes. They instead project loads of stuff. And that's what racism, ethnophobia, misogyny, all of that kind of stuff, and loads of other different variations of things like that. That's what that all is. It's just shadow projection. You're projecting and finding something to blame and to scapegoat, because that's also where the term scapegoating comes from. Another very big psychological term that's often used. So, for example, you can also have this individually on an individual basis. So, I'll give you an example. I was talking to a client. He had a very obsessional hatred, you could say, towards negatively labeling most people as conformists. You'd say, oh, these people are conformists, they don't go against the grain, all this type of thing. How they are a problem not only for society, but he also say, that they're a problem for himself, as it limits, his ability to relate with others, when really that's down to him, Yet, when I asked him, why are you putting all the burden of responsibility and blame onto other people you call conformists, quote unquote, when it is your own responsibility to change and put yourself out there, So, we can often use these certain terms to cast people under this big banner of label, or a certain mass labeling, and that takes away a lot of our own responsibility to do certain things. So we're projecting our shadow onto people through labels, through cognitive biases, through things that are fundamentally not subjectively true to an individual. You can't say, oh, the conformists or whatever, for example. You can't, and then use that as an excuse for, that's why I don't have friends, that's why I can't relate to people, that's why I can't do this. Because all these people conform and they all have the same beliefs and no one's different or unique. You can't say that. Because what you end up finding out, because after saying this and talking about projection to this guy, he then realized that his own way of stereotyping people as conformists is simply a form of shadow projection coming from a place of fear, social anxiety. If you are in fear of social anxiety, social interaction with people, you want to find a way out of taking accountability to confront that problem because it's difficult. People who don't want to be courageous, they want to find a way to confront that problem by using labels, projection, scapegoating, so that they can then do that, so that they can avoid the responsibility and accountability they need to have towards those certain things. And that's where something like that can come into place. And that's one example where that can come in. The collective shadow projection comes through when we see collective movements, people claiming other people, politics, all this crap, right? And more the subjective shadow projection can be seen in our own insecurities, when we blame other people for certain things when really it's down to ourselves and our own the honesty we have and the integrity we have towards doing what is right, doing what is good. So that kind of gives you a way of looking at shadow projection. Why do we suddenly become so irritated by certain things? And irritation fundamentally tells us something about ourselves that we cannot or do not wish to look at on a deep level. So if you found this video interesting, if you enjoyed it, found it insightful, make sure to give it a like, comment your thoughts down below in relation to this topic of conversation. And of course, if you are interested in jumping onto my free newsletter, where I post loads of different articles every week, you'll find a link in the description. If you want to download my free individuation mini course, you can also find that in the description. And of course, if you want to do one-on-one coaching with me with regards to procrastination, bad habits, self-limiting beliefs, and overcoming these fundamental things to go towards and live a better life where you feel more mentally secure and confident, then book in a free call with me as well, so we can have a chat and see where we can go from there. So if you enjoyed this video, guys, make sure to do all those things. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you in the next one.